since becoming a dad, the friendship zone of their life, it just sort of gets backburnered. So this double loneliness thing is quite prevalent. It doesn't mean guys are in despair. It just means they're wondering, oh, where can I sort of connect or have conversations or gather round on
Yeah.
topics like these? Because maybe it's not things I'll bring up with my partner or my kids. And I love them, but I need to go elsewhere to get the support to then come back and really contribute best. I believe men do talk and men do express themselves and men do share very, very, very clearly need to know the space that they can do that in.
Are you the entrepreneurial dad who is experiencing a double dose of loneliness? Yeah, it's possible that you may be feeling lonely as a father and not knowing who to connect to in your local fatherhood communities, but you could also be lonely as the entrepreneur and not knowing who to turn to support you in your business. Well, fear not, because today we're going to sit down with Blake Fly and make sure that you have access to the right resources you need so your business can prosper.
This is phenomenal. I'm so pumped to be back into this conversation.
Blake, welcome back. It's good to see you again. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm thrilled to have this connect and to be with you and your guitars in the background, as always.
Yeah, it's the one thing that stood out to me about our time. We've known each other a couple of years now, and I loved all those videos you did playing guitar in front of large groups. I see you playing with school kids and in school gymnasiums and so all that stuff. Yeah, it takes me back. So well spotted. Yeah, you saw my guitar.
Yeah,
That's our musical connection. Are you still doing those events? Are you still bringing out the guitar on stage?
I am. Yeah, it used to be entirely for student work, student groups. That's the work that I did for years. Whereas over the years, it evolved into business events, corporate events, companies, conferences. So if I'm on a stage with an audience, there's a guitar involved.
So let's link. This is a not so perfect segue to we play guitars to hey, entrepreneurial dads. You heard at the beginning that we were going to help you out. So we're going to dive right into that. I am an entrepreneurial dad. Blake is an entrepreneurial dad. Juggled the needs of young children with family life, as well as trying to build a business. Dive in today and help you with that. So Blake, why don't we kick this off by perhaps tell us maybe a little bit of the journey to this point where you identified that the people who you are best serving are those entrepreneurial dads. And I know your story, but other people weren't. So tell us about that.
I now serve entrepreneurial dads, and it was a complete surprise that I did not even see coming. Most of my work in my business has been as a speaker, as a coach, talking about relationship building and helping people just deliver unexpected appreciation in life, at work, in business, in person, and online. But I became a dad in 2020. My beautiful bride, Emily, and I had a sweet little boy on Christmas Day, and it rocked me, meaning it took me to like the highest of highs. And what I didn't expect is it took me to the lowest of lows. I thought, whoa, there was the pandemic. The business took a hit. My wife and I were getting disconnected just by the busyness of we have a priority now that we didn't before, and we're kind of becoming two ships passing. And so I made a lot of these projects for myself and my friends who were fellow new dads. And one of the ones that I did was this idea of, I called it the Paternity Brothers. There's a group of guys that were on pat leave or something like that. And Paternity Brothers essentially was just a text thread on my phone with maybe 6 of my buddies who were all dads and in business. And it was just a place where I could say, hey guys, if I'm kind of overwhelmed or like drowning a bit in this new phase of my life, can I just reach out? Like, yeah, totally. So the Paternity Brothers was just this fun little thing I did, but that thread, a rich conversation for guys talking about marriage and parenthood and how to balance business and everything. Fast forward, by putting those kinds of projects together for fun the last few years, guys have said to me, like, why don't you do this at a much higher level? Like, why are you making this just for fun? It's fun. Like, yeah, but all your work when you speak, when you coach, and you consult is very similar to this. So why don't you make this a bigger thing? Now that's a big part of my business is supporting entrepreneurial dads, but this double loneliness theme comes through a lot in my conversation with these guys.
Yeah.
This idea that as entrepreneurial dads, they've got a lot on their shoulders in the business and in the home. So there's that. And sometimes they feel alone with that. Maybe they don't want to share that with their kids or their spouse. But then there's sort of an isolation feeling. And then they also don't know if they can even really bring that up with other dudes, other guys that are dads in business, because it's like, well, am I weak or am I alone in this? Or is this weird to talk about? Or should I just have this all together? And then I'm noticing in my calls with these guys that a lot of individuals are sharing this same sentiment. So this double loneliness thing is quite prevalent. It doesn't mean guys are in despair. It just means they're wondering, oh, where can I sort of connect or have conversations or gather round on
Yeah.
topics like these? Because maybe it's not things I'll bring up with my partner or my kids. And I love them, but I need to go elsewhere to get the support to then come back and really contribute best as a partner and as a parent.
Yeah, and I love this because I am exactly this person who has felt the loneliness of trying to, am I the only dad who's trying to figure this out? My son is autistic. It's kind of a story that I've been
Mm,
sharing now more openly, and people don't know that about me, that it's a
mm,
very different life. But then my business, I kind of think, yeah, it's got a little bit of autism in it itself because the person running it
um,
has those traits, ADHD and
yeah.
OCD and other things, right? And so handling
Mm,
that's been extremely difficult. So let me test this with you.
yeah.
One of the things that I noticed about me was, I did an international move, emigrated into the US from the UK. That lost me my friendship circle. So I didn't have dudes
Mm,
that I could talk to because I had to recreate them here. And so I kept them separate. And so when my professional life in corporate America, it was very much focused on being professional. And I didn't hang out with any of those men outside of work. So my
mm,
question to you is for the people you're encountering and all those, there'll be entrepreneurial dads watching this going, oh my goodness, help me, solve me, fix me, help me.
mm.
Did you think that's that kind of obedient worker, professional, don't really hang out with my work buddies, translated into their entrepreneurial lives? So for me, I came into entrepreneurial world and didn't really connect with anyone. Is that a dynamic that you're seeing?
A dynamic that I'm seeing is that a lot of guys say that when they become a dad or when they became a dad, they sort of unintentionally dropped that area,
Yeah.
basically friendship. Like friendship just took the back burner. So whether they were intentional about it before fatherhood or not, since becoming a dad, the friendship zone of their life, it just sort of gets backburnered. And I'm noticing that some guys say, and I'm not some expert on this. I'm just the community leader of it. This is me as well as I say all this, but I sort of forgot to prioritize friendships. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize the impact of that. I didn't understand the precious and powerful nature of some friendships. And not that they all crumbled or anything. I just went, oh, I used to drive a lot for work. I don't drive as much for work now. I used to call my friends on my drives. Interesting. And I kind of just gapped on the fact that I used to put hours and hours and hours a year just connecting with buddies on the phone. And then I stopped because I stopped driving. So yes, friendship takes a back burner. And I think some guys, they don't feel comfortable creating adult friendships with other dudes.
Actually,
There's
after
almost like some parallels to dating. Do I
yeah.
talk to him? Do I
I didn't
text
grow
him?
up. I
Is
didn't
it
grow up
weird?
with you. Yeah, I didn't grow up with you. I don't know who you are. How can I possibly trust you? Because the last time I created a relationship with a male friend, they just screwed around and took everything that I
Yeah.
gave. They
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
transactional relationship, and I just never felt like I was part of their heart. Yeah, I that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah, I don't feel like that's an easy thing to do because I'm living in that space of having to double down on friendship. And what that means is every day you have to message your friends because if you
Yeah.
don't, they're not going to message you because they're going through the same stuff. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So give us perhaps give us some sound bites, two or three things that come up. Maybe give us a case study. You don't have to name any names, and even if you did, that person will probably be grateful that you're sharing their story. But tell us a story where somebody's come to you experiencing this double loneliness, and then your coaching skill, maybe a framework that you've developed, or some of the things you talked about have actually helped them move
Yeah.
from one point to another. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, in the work that I'm doing with dads, we basically focus on what I call the five fires. And so the five fires are your marriage, your kids, your village, and your business. And so the five fires, it's twofold. One, I like nature, so I like fire. It's this constant sort of perspective on how are each of these doing because they all need to be taking place. They all need to be on in some way, but we also need to be managing them. And to manage five fires alone is pretty tricky. And if it gets out of hand, devastating. So take business, for example. Maybe your business is having a record season. You're just like untouchable. Everything you do works. Money's falling from the sky right into your hands. Your business might be on fire. We're not mindful. Maybe that means that one of those other fires is Like maybe that means you're not seeing your kids much, or you're not connecting with your partner, or your health is just rock bottom because you're just going all out for your business. So with these five fires, one of the guys approached me. He learned about the work that I was doing, and he didn't end up joining the program specifically. But what was fascinating is he said, I realized that I don't want to be part of this program because the program has already given me everything I needed and I didn't expect. This concept of the five fires, it was so clear, prompted me to have a conversation with my wife. We went to a coffee shop without our two kids, and we were in a place where it's like, okay, we need to change something. Are we going to split up? Are we going to move homes? Are we going to change where we live? We needed some massive change. Everything was kind of dwindling. And he said, I realized my problem was that I was trying to keep up five fires. I actually only need to keep up four. What he meant by that is he said, I've been kind of wavering on if I want to be in my own business or not for a few years now. And the business has been really, really, really struggling. And that's been bleeding out into every other area of my life, me as a parent, me as a partner. And so he basically decided to stop his business, and he's going to be pursuing different work. And actually, he and his wife decided they're going to sell their home and downsize so that he can be the primary parent for the next 6 to 12 months. And she can really level up in some business pursuits she's working on. And I didn't expect that this framework was going to be so simple and sophisticated that would serve him in such a way. Also, that's why I made it. It was based on conversations with like 100 entrepreneurial dads that we came up with this five fires concept. And it seems to do a pretty good job at summarizing guys like us and our whole world. Pretty much every part of our world can fit into one of those five fires. And the question is, how are they all doing?
Yeah, I love the concept. It fits perfectly with something similar that I talk about. Is that, but for the first four, certainly for you, for your marriage, for your kids, and for your mission, I call it. Are you clear that those four things are all the things you want, and are they in the right place? And doing that evaluation, all that constant evaluation makes sense. Now it sounds like underneath your five fires, you've got some evaluation stuff going on, which I think is extremely valuable. Even though this gentleman didn't join, he's taken away. I got to focus on the fires that I know I can tend. And the analogy might be, you're spinning too many plates. Let some drop. It's okay. You will be able to pick up a new plate at some point and run with it. What I love about the story is it ties beautifully to something that happened in my own life, is that, I walked away from my corporate career with nothing to go to. Lots of people thought that was crazy, but it did mean that time that my wife became the person putting money in the account while I was figuring out what am I going to do, for the rest of my days. But for us, the pressure point of if I didn't do that, my marriage was over. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't see my son. If I didn't do that, God knows where we'd be living now. There were lots of other things going on. And so I can appreciate what that guy's going through. So thank you for sharing that story. I think it's really powerful. If you're the career professional or business owner and you need help just to move you from a point of lacking focus, feeling undervalued, maybe underserved, I would love to speak with you for an intro call. So we have 30 minutes together. There is a link down in the description next to Mark's links where you can book a call with me and we can get to know each other and learn a little bit more about your challenges and your desired reality. I can't wait to hear from you. Let's get back to the video. Tell us about outcomes then. So to people who do come in the program, what kind of things can they expect to experience? And then also what kind of things are you seeing them gain? What's the big benefit for them?
I mean, one of my favorite pieces to it all is the way that we keep accountability and structure specifically on that kids is we've just all committed to write what's called a forever letter. And this is a concept you may have heard. I believe it was started in the Jewish tradition, but a forever letter is essentially a letter that you write in the present to gift to someone in the future. This group of guys, once a month, we record a 3 to 5 minute audio message or video message to our kids. And we make it now, but the intention is to send it to them later. Maybe that's in 10 years. Maybe we call that section of our work, Dad's Making History. So Dad's Making History, it's like once a month, we actually make some history. And the guys think it's to gift our children, which, yes, that's the point. The real driver behind this for me is I can't think of a better way to presence dads to the journey of fatherhood than to literally talk to your child once a month without them listening, just saying, here's who you are right now. Here's what you're doing right now. Here's what you're learning right now. Here's what you're teaching me right now. Here's the moment we shared right now.
Yeah.
And then over the course of a year, you might have almost an hour of moments, but over the course of a decade, it's like a little mini documentary that presents the parent along the way.
I love it. And I've heard of similar things, but nothing like memorializing on in the present for the future. I've heard of, write your goals out, your future goals out now. And
Yeah.
I've also heard of putting together a letter that's going to arrive to you later in the mail to remind you of
Yeah.
where you are right now. So if you're in a good peak state, you can write that letter in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. It comes in the mail and reminds you who you are in this moment, and that are you holding yourself accountable to your own expectations of yourself, so you can keep those fires going. But I've never heard this. I love it, and I think it's a really good idea to start capturing messages like this. One thing I have done in the past is on a Friday, I write a dear Rory letter. That's his name, my son, and write him a letter of all the things that have happened this week, and I'll feature him in there, and I'll feature my professional life in there, and I don't blur the boundary. You just tell people this was my week, and with the expectation, that thing you said of, when I'm gone, who's going to know if I don't memorialize or codify some of the stuff that's gone on? Did he exist?
Wow.
Did this guy even exist?
Right.
So putting together a body of work, I think, I call it create something of magnitude, and that is so
Mm.
powerful. So thank you for that. Right. Well, look,
Wow. That. Mm.
I think this is going to be like part one of a two-parter for you guys for Entrepreneurial. So as we wrap this, because this is kind of the end of this, what one or two things would you say to the entrepreneurial dad who's watching this now? We're going to give you links in below and places to contact so you can do that. But what one or two things would you say if somebody's experiencing this double loneliness today and they saw this video? What's the one-two punch, maybe? Not that that's the right analogy, but what's the thing that you want them to hear from you?
My dad, he's been part of something called a study group for a lot of years. He's been in business. He's in like the financial advising space, but the study group is basically 10 guys that have been in an accountability group for 25 years, 30 years. Pretty serious. I interviewed my dad to get some insights on like what this creation is for dads. And he told me that a lot of feedback they've heard over the years is that, men don't talk. Like, men don't express their feelings, men don't share. And what he said to me is like, I believe men do talk and men do express themselves and men do share. Very, very, very clearly need to know the space that they can do that in. And so if there aren't spaces with those signs on that door that say, you can do that here, then men don't talk and men don't express themselves and men don't share. But to guys listening right now, I hope that they know that there are spaces, and it's not even just to therapy's sake. That's welcome too, but there's spaces where guys can just connect and collaborate on life as a dad, life in business, life in marriage. And I'm not saying I'm the only dude with that. It's just once a guy kind of raises his hand and says, any other entrepreneurial dads out there who are in a long-term relationship, if one other guy's hand goes up, your values are like 90% synced. And then the other 10% is like, do you watch sports? And so say the things that are really meaningful to you, because other dads can then, and they can connect on it.
I think this is so good. I cannot wait for part two. So
Yeah,
with
let's
your
do it.
permission, can I get you back on here to record part two where we can go a little bit deeper maybe, but give the
Oh,
entrepreneur,
for sure.
anybody who sees this, don't worry, we'll be back with Blake because we had such a short time talking to each other today. But that is a wrap for part one. I want to thank you and show my appreciation and gratitude for reconnecting with us, because I know we've known each other since during the pandemic, maybe even just before the pandemic. And we've done podcasts in different environments before, and both of our businesses have evolved into different things. Life has evolved for us, families evolved. There's so much going on. So I would love to get you back on part two. So let's arrange to do that. We'll say goodbye
Thank
to
you,
everybody else.
James.
Thanks, Blake. Thanks for your time today. Hey, James, jumping in at the end here. I want to make sure that you enjoyed that video. And if you did, I would be delighted if you come and join me in this next video right here. So when you get there, we're going to teach you some more tools, strategies, methodologies that are going to change the way that you operate inside of your career. I'll see you inside.